if I go for an interview and tell them that I have 2 kids and 2 dogs, will I get a job? Women do face a lot of problems at their workforce after they get married, and especially after 2-3 years of their marriage when it's the time to have kids. And do women face a lot of problems after having kids? So I was really intrigued by all these questions and I decided to not rack my brains about it but ask an HR professional that what is going on. Why are all these companies not hiring women and what's wrong with hiring a married woman with 1 kid or 2 kids? So in this video, we are talking to someone who is really aced the field of HR. It is Deepika Mehrotra, who is the CEO of 7S HR. And let's get ahead in the video and talk to her and understand from an HR's perspective what is happening in the job market. Hi Deepika. So I always wanted to know, is it difficult for married women to get a job? And have you personally, being in HR, faced any kind of such discrimination, or have you been asked questions while you were about to change a job, pertaining to parenting and motherhood?
Thank you, Mitali, firstly for having me here. And the great question. I think a lot of married women, go through this during their tenure of job search, specifically if they're newly married, married for a few years. Nowadays, even, if you have 1 kid, are you planning another one? So it's kind of, it's funny, but it's actually not funny, right? It's extremely unprofessional to ask personal questions like these. I think women are equipped to manage multiple things, right? They manage their family, they manage the job, they manage kids. But specifically, when you talk about hiring for smaller SMEs, mid-sized companies, which are not really run by professionals in terms of, the initial screening round or HR round. They're generally freshers with, very less years of experience, and they don't understand the nuances of actually what kind of questions should be asked, right? So questions like these are very common. Are you planning a baby soon? Would you expect a paid maternity leave? You have 1 kid, are you planning another one? So a lot of questions like these that get asked, which absolutely should never be asked, right? Like, do we go and ask a man, are you planning a kid? If your wife is working, how are you going to manage your work? Nobody really asks that, right? Parenting is generally managed by both the parents together. But yes, these questions get asked even in my experience. So I had my baby after 11 years of my marriage. So I got asked these questions multiple times, right? Immediately after the marriage, 1 year, 3 years, why would you not plan a kid? And there were phases where I said, okay, maybe I'm not sure if I want to, right? Because that was the phase I was going through. But I think it was very, I don't know, I didn't like it at all when these questions were asked. And we ensure now that these questions are never asked. Well, there are a lot of organizations who cannot afford the 6-month maternity leave, or, they are not able to actually manage the work if a person is away. So for example, it's like a 20-member team, right? If it's a 20-member team and they're hiring somebody who's going to go on maternity, they will have to hire somebody to manage that work because it's not going to be easy. And then they will have to pay the 6-month maternity. So from an organization's point of view, also, it's not easy, depending on, how big they are or what role the person is playing. But generally, I've seen that, anybody more than 40, 50 employees generally cater to it these days. There's a lot of awareness about maternity and its benefits. The creche facility, more than 50 employees. If you have more than 50 employees, you need to have a creche around, the area. So there are a lot of benefits as well. But asking these kind of questions is absolutely not right.
Yeah, so what can a woman do, if she is asked these questions? Suppose we'll take 2-3 examples of different women in the different phases of life. There is a woman who's been married for 2-3 years and she gets asked this question that, are you planning a kid? There might be a mother who has 1 kid and she's getting asked these questions. And I don't think there are women at least whom I know, who have two kids, who are going and applying for a job. Because, they are like, now that I have two kids, nobody is going to hire me. So, what can we do?
Yeah, so firstly, I don't think as women we need to block our minds saying, I'm not going to get a job if I have a kid or if I have two kids, right? It all depends on, your capability to manage things, your passion to do things, right? It's all clubbed together. Thanks to COVID, there are so many more remote jobs available now, where you can actually manage, everything together. I mean, of course, you can do your morning, tasks and make sure everything's done and you sit down at your desk for 8 hours. But at least you're around, right? If you have a nanny at home, you know that the kid's being taken care of right in front of your eyes or just in another room. You're not away. So a lot of opportunities are available remote or in office, depending on, what we want to do. So as women, firstly, or as working mothers, don't block your mind saying, I'm not going to get a job. Okay. Be positive, be confident. Always talk about your skills. It's extremely important that you talk about what you bring to the table, what you bring to the organization that's going to benefit them. And in that case, it doesn't even matter for the organization on, how many kids you have or what you can manage or not manage. What you're able to do. See, it's both ways, right? On the other side, I have also seen a lot of women trying to take advantage of this, right? Okay, I've got married, I'm going to have a kid, but I will need 6 months maternity break, so let me take up a job. I take the 6 months maternity break, I take 1 month external, and then I quit, saying I can't manage with the kid. That's also not fair, right? So I think it's both ways. I have seen these kind of situations also a lot of times, where they've probably even never worked in their lives before, but now they want to take up a job so that they can get the 6 months maternity pay break, right? Maybe when you had your kids or when I had my kids, we still had the 3 months maternity, but now it's 6 months paid maternity. So I think we should focus on our skills, what we can get. Be open and ask for flexibility if you feel there is a need, which there will be, right? But as long as we are, completing our tasks on time, I don't think anybody would really bother. You should look for an organization that kind of caters to this and can fit into this. Like, you can't go to a manufacturing unit and say that I'm going to need to have flexible working hours. It might not work out, right? Or I'll work from home. It might not work out. So choose the industry where your skills, can be enhanced and you can manage both.
And suppose there are lot of these unfortunate incidences which happen with a lot of women. One friend of mine, she announced that she is pregnant. It was obviously a small firm with around 10 employees. It was a social media firm, and she was asked to leave. She even told them that I'm just going to continue for 2 more months. Now that I'm 6 months pregnant, I can just work for 2 more months, and then I'm anyways going to quit. But she was asked just to leave the next day. So when such unfortunate things happen, what can we do, and are there any labor laws? Is there any place or a firm where people can complain? And some
yes, there are labor. Sure. So there are labor laws around it as well, right? If these things happen, it's for 10 or more employees only. If your organization has less than 10 employees, you don't need to give a paid maternity break. That's not as per the law. But if you have 10 or more employees, you are liable to. Okay. And if you've been asked to terminate, if you've been asked, to leave the job or get terminated, you can definitely go to the labor court and complain that this was done. And it's very fast and it's very quick, and the organization has to pay the maternity and are bound to take you back on the job.
Okay, even if they're less than 10
we've seen women, no, more than 10 employees.
Okay. And if it is less than 10 employees, then, and she's asked,
they are not
quit.
So they're not liable to give you a paid maternity break.
Okay.
In that case, if you've been asked to terminate, you can go back to the other clauses of your appointment letter. Keep the maternity aside, right?
Yeah.
Why were you terminated immediately? Do you have warnings? Do you have, were you put on performance improvement plan, as they call a PIP? Were you given 3 warning letters that you're terminated with immediate notice? If you leave the maternity side and just stick to that as well for cases like these, it's good enough. right? And maternity would definitely add to it, that would, ask a pregnant woman to leave. But at the same time, if it's less than 10 employees, they are not liable to give you a paid maternity break. On the other side, what we have seen on the other side, what we have seen organizations do is have a heart-to-heart conversation, specifically if they're less than 10 employees, right?
Correct.
Understand what the future plans are of the candidate, right? Of the employee, the woman employee, on what they are planning to do. Are they planning to come back? Because there are a lot of people who think, no, my priority is different. I don't want to work anymore. That's fine, right? They can continue working till when they are working, and they can leave. If they're ready to come back, we'll always be there to welcome you. So, those are conversations that you can have, and if they want to go, they can resign and go. Not a problem at all. So, but it's important that you have a heart-to-heart conversation to understand, what are they looking for, right? And especially, when you are in that phase, when you're having a baby, it's very important that that sensitivity is maintained in all the conversations. It's extremely important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's because of not having the right information. Many women are suffering in silence. They may need that maternity break, a paid maternity leave, or in such cases where there is no paid maternity leave, those 2-3 months of that salary, whatever it is, might make a huge impact on their bills, maybe, because generally
Absolutely.
in an urban city, it's always the husband and wife who are taking a decision based on the kind of income that they have. So it will all then escalate and then, determines the future of the child. Because in a city
Correct.
like Bombay, where you stay is also determined by, the kind of job that you have. So in such situations,
Correct.
when one person loses the job, it might actually hamper the entire family, and we don't know what background people come from. So, is
Absolutely.
there any place or is there any website where women can be more informed about these laws, so that they can hold their head high when they're looking out for a new job, or, they can actually be confident that, there is no such law which prevents women with 2 kids to have a job, you know? So, are there any places, and, then we can link it down in the comments?
Right. So there are. I'll have to get back to you with the exact,
Sure,
site.
sure.
But the best thing to do is, contact a labor lawyer. It's a very minimal fee that mostly they charge for cases like that, from an employee perspective, where they are confident of, winning the case and making sure that there's fair treatment, provided to the employee. So there are labor lawyers who handle this case. But for more details, I'll have to search and get back to you on where they could.
Yeah. So I think it's great if we could give them some website, so that women can actually refer to this website before applying for a job. They don't have to
Yeah.
feel guilty. That many women might be feeling that I'm the only one जिसके 2 बच्चे हैं और job ढूंढ रही है. Maybe.
ऐसा कुछ है नहीं. Go out in the world and see. It's great. Women are talented and they can manage everything else.
Yeah.
I think that's why paternity break is given, because we feel that men won't be even be able to handle a week of both, managing family and work. So, but we can do it all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think Deepika here has raised some really valid points, and I have never thought from an HR's perspective or from a company's perspective. Being a working professional, I always thought as an employee. But I think when women keep all these factors in mind, why can't they get a job and why can't they excel in any job? This really clears up my mind, and this really makes me feel glad that I could gauge from the HR's perspective. So guys, it's often observed that we women tend to be stuck at our problems, but it is only that time we find solutions when we pick up the phone, or when we write that email, or when we go and do something. If we are looking for a job in the job perspective, or if we are looking for something else, an assignment, a project, in that perspective, we start taking a direction, we start taking a step, then only some changes are going to happen. So I would like to tell all the moms here, all the women here, that start taking steps towards this direction. If you're looking out for a job, like Deepika mentioned, if it's been a very long time, 1 or 2 decades, you have not worked, or if it has been something like you have an excellent degree but you have never ever done a job, take this challenge and start working, and then you'll realize where you are lacking. And one thing is that take all the feedback in a very positive manner. This is the first step towards learning something. And as I tell my kids, I am telling you also that one thing that remains constant in a human being's life is learning. Learning never stops, and if you stop learning, I think you stop living. So, how did you like this video on women in the workforce and what happens to them after they get married, after they have kids, and after basically 1 or 2 decades of not working? If this video was really helpful to you, do let me know in the comment section below, and do subscribe that button, because as this statistic is showing, 96% of people who are watching our videos are not yet subscribed. So let's change this metric, and because this is free for you, but it takes a lot of effort, and if you support us, it will really help us. Bye. Thank you.